This is the Business of Art. G'day, welcome to the Business of Art. Today I want to talk about the micro. When I launched the video blog, I talked about some pretty big picture ideas around entrepreneurial techniques and ideas and target markets and that kind of thing. And understanding all of that and mapping that is going to be really important. But I think just as important is talking about the actual work along the way. I think that some people talk a good game and then don't do anything about it. And people live in this fantasy world where they want to be a great actor or they want to be a great producer or they want to have an audience and then literally just talk about it. They don't do anything, and that's where they fail. I want to talk about a couple of things that have really reshaped my thinking, and then talk about what I've actually been doing in the last few months to get me from where I was to where I am now, so you can see where it's all leading. Sometime in 2016, I had purchased the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I bought that because I'd been hearing so much about it for so long, and I was really interested in thinking differently about money. I didn't grow up in a very rich household. My dad was in a wheelchair and found it very hard to get work. My mum was in a fairly average paying job and there was a lot of us kids, and so we didn't have a lot of money to splash around. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a really interesting book to read. I totally recommend it. I bought it secondhand online. I pretty much buy all my books secondhand online. There are a lot of things in there that are very much focused on investing. And again, it's a book that talks about things that you can do when you have money. But there is a lot of underlying foundational principles in that you can take, and it will really help you in the way that you think. The next book that I bought after that, which is the one that really was the tipping point for me in December, was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. Again, I'd heard a lot about this book, and so I finally bit the bullet and bought it. And I literally got 3/4 of the way through that book. I put it down and I said to myself, I know how to start. I found out that Tim had a podcast, so I started listening to the Tim Ferris Show, which is a podcast that he has, where he interviews high-level entrepreneurs and high-level successful people in certain fields and really breaks down the way that they approach things and do things. And one of the people he talked about was a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. And so it was something, I can't even remember what it was, that made me interested in Gary. And I went and sourced some of his content and very quickly became a fan. The way that he thinks and talks about business and life is very much in sync with me and what I think and feel about those things. And so I found his content to be very, very encouraging and very, very inspiring. One of those big turning points this year is hitting that point of going, okay, now it's time for me, and starting to get away from all of these other things that are very valuable and things that I loved, but things that were taking up all of my time to be able to do this for myself. But I don't want to talk about theories that I haven't applied. I want to talk about it in terms of business so that we understand that the principles that work for hundreds of thousands of other businesses that help them make money from their product, that we should be able to apply to the work that we do as artists, and it should have the same effect. That's where I'm coming from. So one of the things that Gary talks about that I really took on is this concept of document, don't create. So when we're looking at putting things out on Facebook and Instagram and trying to grow an audience that might be interested in the work that we're doing, and as artists, we are actually in a prime position to do this. Rather than trying to come up with new content all the time, one of the ways to generate an audience is to document the process of what you're creating, because people that are happy to consume art are often interested enough also in the creation of that. I mean, look at behind the scenes, features on DVDs and that kind of stuff. It's so easy now that we can just photograph it and upload it straight from our phone, or, I'm filming this on my phone. I'm going to edit this on my phone. I'm going to upload this to YouTube from my phone. We have the ways and means to do this so simply and cost-free that there is really no reason not to. So that concept of documenting, not creating, is what led me to the concept of doing a video blog. And when I was looking at where I was going to start with that, I thought, well, I need to tap into the biggest market that I can quickly. I knew that people saw me as the business guy, the manager guy in arts kind of circles. And so I knew that was going to be somewhere that I could start. But I also wanted to apply the principles. And so in order to do market research, I sat down in front of my computer, I opened up my Gmail, I hit compose, and I found 100 people across all of the different areas of my life. So my medieval reenactment, my acting, my producing, my business, my everywhere I could think of where I knew people in different pockets of different areas of my life. I picked 100 people and I emailed them. And the email said, I'm doing some market research on myself for a new project that I'm working on. And I want to ask you this question, and if you would answer it, I would be very grateful. If I could teach you 3 things that would benefit your life, what would they be? And I got a 30% response rate, and about 80% of that was around business and management and how to manage people and how to manage projects and how to think about things from a management point of view and a leadership point of view. A smaller percentage of that, probably about 10 to 15% of it, was around performing and directing and creating, that kind of thing. And then interestingly, the other 5% was around a bit of a mix of fighting stuff, which is what I do as a hobby, and positive life, kind of how you are so positive and how you achieve so much and, you know, how you do so much work. What is it that drives you? That kind of real kind of positive life, inspirational type thing, which really surprised me that that's how people saw me. Basically, coming out of that, there was a 75 to 80% response rate on business and management. And I went, yep, that reinforces what I thought people saw me as. It's not what I wanted people to see me as. I actually want to be known as an actor and a producer. But that's where I've been working. That's where I've been spending my time. And on a different episode, I will actually take you through my poker chip theory of self-awareness, which I applied to myself a few years ago. And that was a really valuable process. But anyway, that's what I knew people knew me as, and that reinforced what I thought people knew me as. And so that's where I started. I literally bought a domain called thedeependmanager.com because my thought was the way I became a manager initially in the arts was by producing. That I wanted to perform. There was nowhere I could perform, so I created a show and then performed in that show. And that, in the process of doing that, meant that I had to manage people. I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a lawyer, and she also plays the keyboard, and she had found herself joining a band and then all of a sudden becoming the band manager. And so she was in the exact same situation where she'd been thrown in the deep end to manage these artists, and she wasn't really sure some of the things that she could do to do that. And so I went, well, this is definitely something that happens to a lot of us. I can talk at it from that point of view. In the midst of all of that, I've been building and developing a better self-tape studio at home for auditions for my acting work. And so I went to a workshop that a friend who's a very great actor, really great guy, is running a business of his own locally now as well, you know, in between work, but he's just tremendous. And he was running a self-taping workshop, so I went to that because I had a question about lighting. Like, I couldn't get my lighting to look good. I mean, it's looking a lot better now. This is a quick setup. I've spent a bit less time on it than I normally would. However, the impact of this is still way better than what I was getting on my self-tapes before. I had like massively dark shadows on the back wall. It was just ugly. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And I wanted to ask a question about lighting and how he approached lighting for self-tapes, because that was really the last key for me on what I was missing in really feeling confident in the way that my self-tapes looked. As an actor, I know that, you know, it's the performance that's going to get you the job, but I really wanted something when I put a self-tape together that looked good. And this was going to be the final key in kind of getting that to happen. So I went to the workshop and I got my answer, and it was way simple. And the thing that surprised me in that workshop was the amount of other people that actually didn't know how to set up a self-tape studio. They were asking lots of questions about framing and lighting and sound and just editing and all of the other things. And I'm really confident in, because I've done all of that stuff for years, and I taught myself how to do it simply by having a go. But in that moment, because I was so open to the concept of finding opportunities for businesses, I realized right there that was a market that A lot of us are at acting workshops to talk about our performance, but I realized that very few people are talking about the actual behind the scenes setup. And so I thought, well, that's an opportunity for me to tap into. And so I got home from that workshop, thought about what I would call it, and bought a domain name that day, and then set myself, that was on the 29th of January 2017, and I bought the domain name selftapestarter.com, and that I would create an information product around self-taping and how to set up a self-tape studio. I set myself the end of February as a deadline to do that. 4 weeks later, realised that was stupid, and so moved that deadline to the end of March. And by the 31st of March, I had the product written, edited, and the website built and online. And you can go there today and find that product. Now, I'm still tweaking the website. I'm still tweaking a whole bunch of things around that. I'm going to get some graphic design work done on the information product itself, just so it has a bit more of a book look and feel when you download it. It's not just going to be a whole bunch of like words in a PDF that has no style. So there's still some work to do on that, but it was really important to me to set a deadline and just get it done. And I did that. I'm really happy with that, and I've been working on it ever since. So the reason I decided to create selftapestarter.com was not to distract myself from producing and creating work. I wanted to create income that did not require my time, because once I've done the work and created the product, then it's just all about the marketing to get someone to look at that and buy it. The other thing that I stumbled onto was a podcast called I Love Marketing. They also have a website called ilovemarketing.com. Now, I Love Marketing podcast has completely shifted my thinking, and it's just been a massive support in how I approach everything that I'm looking towards now. It's run by two guys, Dean Jackson and Joe Polish, both of them multi-millionaires who have created their money from originally direct mail marketing, which has then moved to email marketing, and they both now teach marketing to certain sectors in the fields, and they have a massive marketing business, and they are tremendous. So there's a couple of things that I have found highly valuable. I will put links to those in the comments below. That kind of brings me to, I guess the easiest way to do this is to really sort of summarize a whole bunch of things that I've had to do along the way to get to this point. Recently, I sent my first email to my email subscribers on selftapestarter.com. I've had a Small Crown Productions Facebook page for years, which I've used for a long time. I've had Instagram for a long time, but I hadn't really been utilizing it very well. And so this year I've really focused on using Instagram a lot better. And a book I will recommend to you if you're really interested in the social media marketing aspect of things is a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. It was written in 2013, so it's a little bit out of date, but some of the concepts that he talks about are in relation to being native to the platform and really understanding how content works on each platform separately. And that's helped me rethink the way that I was approaching that. And I'm attempting to post on Instagram every day, or at least every couple of days. And that has really helped me to grow my audience on Instagram from 200 to just over 400 in the last 6 months. Then I created a Facebook page for Paul Adams as a producer, so that the behind the scenes work like this video blog and that kind of stuff can go on there, so that I have a portal for that. I'm looking now at also recreating a website to be the house for that information. I don't want to rely solely on something like Facebook, which could crumble and fall, whereas if I own a domain and I own the website, a hosting company might fall, but that will never change. I can find another hosting provider. So I'm thinking now that I need to have a website for that whole producing arm that I'm coming down on, the business of art and that kind of thing as well. So I'm investigating that and deciding whether I want to go down that road, and I think I probably will end up doing that. I've started creating an email list for the Paul Adams brand, I guess is what it's called. It's going to be like a personal brand alongside Small Crown Productions, which is a different brand, and then again selftapestarter.com, which is now a separate business under the Paul Adams brand, but they all have to be treated differently. I've added a blog page to the website on Self Tape Starter, so I'm going to create little information videos and put them on the blog page. That's what I've done there. I've done a lot of Facebook ad testing in the last couple of months, and really micro testing, like literally doing 3 to 5 day runs of $2 a day or $3 a day or $5 a day just to understand how Facebook marketing works better. I understood the theory of it, but actually being a practitioner on it is very different, and being able to talk about that with authority because I've done it, to me, is very important. So I've been doing that and using that to promote the blog posts and using that to promote Self-Tape Starter, and actually, driving traffic to my sites, which is going to be important to grow that. And then most recently, I've been fascinated with this concept of capturing emails, which is really kind of where the communication base is going to be for all of these things. And so I need to rebuild the Small Crown Productions website as part of the relaunch for creating shows. But in the meantime, what I've done is I've tried to create a landing page, which is simply, it's also called a squeeze page, which is a page that captures emails, essentially. So people can go there and go, yes, I'm interested in hearing more about what you're looking to do. Here's my email address, and they go on your mailing list. And from a lot of the research I've done, having a mailing list is super important. So I'm trying to build that across all of my brands. The big thing that I've done in the last couple of months is resign from the Queensland Shakespeare Ensemble. I have spent 5 years as the general manager there. I've also been the president of the management committee. I started as an actor with the company in 2009. I love that company. I think it's a really tremendous company, and I believe that it has the potential to have a massive future. But my whole focus was shifting so much more towards this stuff that I've been researching for myself. I realized I just didn't have the time to commit and fully engage with that company, and I didn't want to start failing. And so I had to resign. And so taking back a lot of that time for myself has been really important. And that's going to help me get to that next level as well, because I'll have the time to invest. So again, that stepping back and really assessing what I'm doing and where I'm investing my time is crucial. And I do that a lot about where I'm at. So I'm still producing the Matilda Awards. So, that's another external project that I get to produce, which is really exciting. I love doing that. In the midst of all of this, I have taught myself to use WordPress. I have taught myself to use MailChimp. I have spent hours and hours and hours digging into online marketing and business marketing, because I really believe that the way forward for me is steeped in good marketing principles. I believe it's really crucial to audience engagement and continuing to keep people as part of your audience for the future, because it's hard to get new audience. It's hard. And once you've got them, you don't want to lose them. So we've got to really think about ways that we can keep our audience engaged along the way, so that we can have them there when we're going to market with the next product. And so I'm investigating ways to do that and how I feed that audience along the way between productions. So that's going to be a big part of the next step in the journey. So that's kind of where things are at right now. So there's a lot that I've done in the last 8 months, but a lot of it's been about research and then finding a way to apply that knowledge so that I can talk about it with authority, that I've actually done it, that I actually understand it, and it's not just someone else's theory that I'm then repeating with, the sense that I know what I'm talking about, when actually I don't, because I haven't done it. That's a massive wrap up of the last 8 or 9 months of where I've been and how I got to where I am right now. And thank you. If you've stuck around this long, I realize this is probably a bit longer than I expected it to be. But thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this journey. Obviously, if you find value in this, please share it, like it, comment on it, subscribe, and of course hit the bell notification so you can hear when the next episode comes out, all of that kind of stuff. But ultimately, thank you so much for being a part of the journey, and I'll see you on the next one.